So behind all these panels there is some equipment, but mostly storage. The containers here are all food. This is how the Russian food comes up in these containers. And this is their spare food that their food they're going to use later on. Okay, now we're going from the FGB into part of the service module, which is like the main living quarters for the Russian side. And this is their kind of, I call it, node area. PO is the name of it in Russian. And it has two different ways to go. If you go nadir, you go into the docking compartment and into a progress down that way. And you can see their Russian spacesuits. So this is what they did to the spacesuit about a week ago. And this is what they did it out of the vaccine. And this is where I have to stay when the Russians do a spacewalk. So I can't be separated from my Soyuz through closed hatches. And so to make sure they want to close that hatch, they're doing their spacewalks. So I have to be in here, so I'll always have an access to my Soyuz back this way. We'll go a little farther, we can at least go a little bit into the Soyuz. But you can tell it gets narrower and narrower. The Soyuz is actually a pretty small vehicle. This is the roomy part of a Soyuz. And it's right here. And it's called the BO, which is basically a living compartment. And so this is where you can actually, there's a little bathroom there, container. You have a little bit of room here, but this is our spacesuits, and this is all the room we really have for a living module. And on the way up here, we unfortunately had to do the 2-day version to get to station versus the 6-hour version. And so we stayed basically in this size, 3 of us, for 2 days. And that was a little cozy. But we made it. That's the best part. It's done. Overall, though, you can see there's not much in this area. Say these are our launch and entry suits. We use are pressurized suits. And we can see real quickly. I bet you we can jump in. I can turn a light on and jump in that Soyuz real quick. I don't have my flashlight with me to find the switch.
But I think we did.
Hey, sup, dog? This is what we normally do, right? This is work.
This is the whole tour.
Right
Start
here.
and finish right here.
I'm on my computer. Yeah. Look, Mom, no hands.
You have hands.
Хорошо. Так,
No feet.
этим кастонайцам это только по телефону, да? Вот это, ну, примерно.
It's roomy. All right, welcome to the International Space Station. Here's a tour. We're starting right now in Columbus, and if you look on this little iPad right here, there's a picture of station, and right here, that's Columbus. So then we're on the starboard side, kind of front area, and that module right there, that's what we're in right now. As you can see, it's of course the European laboratory, but it's not just European. We also have NASA racks in here, NASA payloads in here too at the same time. So it's actually quite a new stuff over here. This is the EML, and Alex will have to tell you all about that because that's his little bailiwick. But it's actually pretty cool because it talks about magnetic levitation, and I just think that's a cool sounding thing. I don't know exactly what it's going to do, but it sounds great to me. And over here you can't, it's hard to see again everything, but we were growing the, in here we were growing, that's where we grew the lettuce, is right in there. Move on farther. Just a workbench, storage area, and there's a storage area above me, storage area below me, over here. We come over here. This is where we take our blood. We got it all set up for doing that. All the stuff we really need for that, all around here. That's a pretty easy task. We do that, and then we have a centrifuge we can put the blood into to help process it, and then after we do that for 30 minutes we freeze it, get all cold, and then we ship it to ground, and hopefully they can tell us something about it from when we get there. Again, more storage over here, and also the ultrasound we hook up right here. We do ultrasounds of all sorts of parts of our body, make sure we're still doing okay. And there's also over here the SlamD, which we don't have to set up, but that's where we do the measure our mass or our weight, see if we're losing or gaining weight. We can set that up over here too, our version of that. And again, there's a lot of science actually going on here too that we don't touch too much, but we just set up. It's a good place, and it's going pretty well. And this is Alex, as you can tell. This is the German flags in the back, ESA stuff. It's a good place for Alex. So let's move on to node 2.
Vacuum cleaner.
Yes, it's true point. We do have one of the most important pieces of equipment on the International Space Station, heading up here. This is the vacuum cleaner, and it's the AC version. And we say, NASA's talk, that this is the only piece of equipment that doesn't suck on the International Space Station. But actually, this is actually much better than the old one, so we actually like it. And it's nothing too fancy, just a vacuum cleaner. But we have to use it every week for stuff clean. Come into node 2, and if you look on the picture here, node 2 is this section right here. It's this front little piece that fits on the station. So it's actually where the shuttle used to front, and this black part is where the shuttle used to dock to. And so right now, there's nothing of course is docking to that, but we're in this area right after there. It's called node 2. And so if you look out here, this is where the shuttle actually docked, is right through that hatch right that way. And there's still a device on, or a module called PMA-2 out there. And when we get a visiting vehicle such as a Cygnus or a SpaceX, we berth it down here on the nadir side, the lower side. So we'll open that hatch and we have that there. And again, so that's again the idea of being a node. It has multiple spots to attach to. So you have all 4 sections here around, and the one out the front, and actually one behind us. So it has actually 6 places to dock other modules too up here. Besides that, it's really our a workbench area and our living quarters in node 2. If you come this way, actually you'll see over here another one of our workbenches. We'll usually keep both workbenches here and here. At this time we have one in the Columbus module at this time, just because Alex is working on a special project there. And then if you go back, you'll see now it's coming into view the 4 crew quarters around here. So we have 4 of us. This one's mine over here. We have Alec, and we have Tonto, and we have Alex. And it's kind of interesting because once you get into one, you really can't tell which one's which orientation you are. So if I happen to go into Tonto's to look at a picture or something he's got on his screen, I'll come out and I'll be kind of confused because I don't know which way I'm going. And especially if you go into Alex's or Alex to do that, you come out and you're really confused because it feels like you're in your own, but when you come out, it's totally different orientation. But if you're looking here, these aren't too big at all. You can take a quick look in here. I'll jump in here real quick. So we have a sleeping bag attached to the wall. The way I like to do it is I just have it attached here in one point and one point up here, so I can put my feet right up here when I'm sleeping, and I kind of do it in a sense of this position, like this, and I'm kind of curled up a little bit in the semi on my side sleeping position, which I like to do back on Earth, and it kind of works out pretty well. It gives me that same feeling, almost, but it works well for me. And then when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you see is your laptops. I got one that connects to the internet, which works like 50% of the time, and then I got another one that does our LAN up here, which gives us our schedule, all the other information, our email, everything we need to do to work up here. That's what that one is. And we also have an iPad, as you can see, and that's also up there, and that's again for all sorts of work or for watching movies or something like that on. That's what it's good for. Again, though, it's actually not a bad setup. I know it's small, but really it works out well. We don't really need much more room up here. So let's now move on to the lab. If again you look on here, so what we're doing right now is we're heading towards the back, towards the aft. We were in the very front, in the middle, and now we're going down this long path in the back. And the first one we come to is a lab. And you see on the back, on top of the lab, I should say, at the very aft part, is this big structure over here. It's called this truss. Sorry, and on the truss we have the solar arrays. And so we can, of course, that's all on the outside, and we only get out there doing a spacewalk. But so that's kind of how this is set up, though, so you can see where we are. So here's the lab here. We're going to head into the lab. This is the U.S. lab. And again, this is pretty much just science racks and storage is what we have. And of course, in avionics, we have a lot of the computers that run the system, or run the lab, or sorry, run the station, are in here. And besides that, then we have all sorts of experiments. And also right here, the first thing we start off here with is we call this Melfi, which is actually a big freezer, a minus 80-degree freezer. And there's 4 different sections of it, and they can control each different section here with a different temperature if they want to. And that's where we put, when we say with blood and stuff like that, we're going to put it in there to store it until it goes home. So that's how all the science is stored once we do it. Here's a glove box, so we can use to do experiments on here if we need to use a glove box. So people on this increment have been doing bass, which was I think kind of interesting. We all liked it as males because it was burning stuff, and you could burn things in here in the glove box, and that also was actually kind of nice. And right, and then later on, after the next SpaceX gets here, they're actually going to do all the work on the mice in that area, which is I think going to be very interesting, difficult but interesting at the same time. If you go to the other side over here, in this little hidden area, is what I've been working on lately. That's a Robonaut. You can hardly see him in here. So he's been my latest project. We've been upgrading the all the electronics in there, the computers, etc. And then this next week I actually get to put legs on him. I think he's going to be actually kind of creepy looking when he gets legs. But hopefully it'll help him walk around the station, move around the station. And as you look around the other spots, then we have on the top, we call them express racks. And express racks just means really it has power and data for any kind of experiments that want to go up there. So if anything on the ground, somebody comes up with an idea for science, and all they need is a data connection and power, they can design it to fit in here, and we can easily put it on there, hook it up, and then they can control it from the ground and do all the science without much interaction from us, which actually works out pretty well because we'll set it all up and they can run a lot more science that way. As we move this way, of course, we got the bike here we set up for exercise, which you have to do about a couple hours a day, either the bike, the treadmill, or on ARED, which is our lifting device. We got that. We got storage behind it. Up here is again the material science rack, and it's kind of, again, the ground does that. We set that one up. We put in stuff to burn again almost, and they do a bunch of experiments on it. We don't really touch it while it's running, but we set it up for them. It's kind of like what's over here too. This is another combustion rack, and again we'll set this all up for them. Put in the fluids, the fuels, the igniters, all that stuff. Set it all up, close it up, and then they run it from the ground. Actually, again, I think they get good science out of that way, and it works pretty well. Over here is a called a fluids and combustion facility. But right now it has a really big a microscope in there, and we put that again samples in there for them to look at on the microscope from the ground. So you see, most of the science here is a combination of us doing work, and then on the ground they do a lot more work. And then they're the ones, of course, who are the experts. We're not the experts in the science, but we just help them out, and hopefully we get good science out of it. Bottom's another storage rack, and this has most of our medical stuff. So you can see the little cross on there for the AED, etc. The important medical stuff that is needed is right here across this rack. Another express rack for science, another express rack for science here. As we come farther in over here, this is called the robotics workstation, and the idea here, of course, is you can fly the arm from this guy right here. So this is where your camera views, so you can look outside to see what the arm's doing from this camera views. You have a controller that'll set up how you're going to fly the arm and put it into the correct mode for flying the arm. And then these are your hand controllers. And one is for translation, which means of course left, right, up and down. And then this is attitude control over here, so if you want to pitch it up, pitch it down, yaw, roll, like that, you do it with this. And you do a combination to make the arm go where you want it to go. And it's good, we have two of these. We have one here in the lab and one in the cupola. And they both have different advantages and disadvantages depending on where you want to go with it. Let's see, if besides that we have over here is actually a trainer for using the arm. So this is kind of a setup, the same idea, but what it is, this is just all software, and then so we can actually practice using the arm right here. And it's kind of nice, because if you're going to grapple a coming vehicle, it's great to get a few practices in before you actually have to do the real thing. It helps out a lot to have this. And we usually set it up and then make it a video game, because it's all set up ready to go for us to practice, and it takes only about a minute or 2 minutes to run and make a run of it. So we'll sit there and put your quarter in, run the game, and then get a little practice, and then we go ahead and move on after that. As we move here, this is more just avionics rack here. We got the like air conditioning system, computers again that run on the station, and some stowage up above. Well, that's pretty much the lab. As we move this way again farther aft, we go into Node 1, which is pretty much just like Node 2. It's a little older, with the same concept, same design.